Thanks, Mr. Joseph. A pleasant good morning to Dominicans on island, Dominicans overseas, to our visitors who are here to provide some assistance to us as we struggle through this disaster time, to the international community who we count on to look at us as we look after us as we find it difficult to help ourselves at this time. I say a pleasant good morning to all. As Dennis spoke, he brought home the problems that we are facing now throughout the island, in every village, every town, in every battered home, houses, in every street around Dominica. The cry is the same. What can we do now? Under normal conditions, the Ministry of Health would be paying attention today to World Mental Health Day. Today is the October 10th. And the world has stopped all around us, except in Dominica, I believe, or probably more in Dominica, to recognize, acknowledge, celebrate World Mental Health Day. Last year, when we celebrated World Mental Health Day, the theme was psychological and mental health first aid for all. As a result of that celebration, we found some funds and we trained over 100 Dominicans in teaching them skills on how to provide psychological first aid. I believe this came in handy on September 18th and thereafter. I can't measure, but I believe the 100 or so Dominicans who were trained were able to talk to people in their specific communities as to how to deal with that traumatic experience called Hurricane Maria. This year, the theme for World Mental Health Day is mental health in the workplace. Again, we should be launching our campaign. We should have launched it already. But this campaign this year is bigger than mental health in the workplace. It is mental health for 100% of Dominicans in and out of workplace. And I dare say many Dominicans may not be in the workplace, even if they were in the workplace before the arrival of Maria. At this point, let me express thanks to the Office of the Prime Minister for inviting the Ministry of Health Emergency Operations Center to the Prime Minister's press briefing. The focus of this press briefing is on the psychosocial response to Hurricane Maria. I was pleasantly surprised at the invitation, but I want to say this is very good for Dominica, Mr. Joseph. Today we are acknowledging that the reality of Hurricane Maria is here. This severely damaged our social infrastructure. Things are very different than they were 3 weeks ago. So today I want to focus on two things. One, I want to see if I can describe the relationship between the social devastation caused by Hurricane Maria and the psychological trauma, injuries inflicted on Dominicans at home and abroad. Now, the massive scale of this disaster is evident to all with eyes, all Dominicans here and abroad, and all the people from the international community. Secondly, I want to inform on the Ministry of Health status in terms of the psychosocial response to this disaster. Let me first look at the first point, the psychosocial effect of Hurricane Maria. I can look at it from 2 points of view here. The impact, which everybody knows, and also where we are now. Where are Dominicans today as we face this storm? If we were to review the impact of Hurricane Maria on Dominica, we would realize that Dominica suffered a crushing blow, a severe battering, a beating, and almost complete collapse of the social infrastructure that we built over the many decades and centuries. We were severely traumatized by Tropical Storm Erica. But I want to say, if you compare Tropical Storm Erica with Maria, there is no comparison. The damages of the social infrastructure was caused by two phenomena. First, they acted together, but a Category 5 hurricane. The winds were Category 5 or more. That combined with the forces of the heavy rain and the swollen rivers and the ravines that we did not know existed, they all overflowed. The winds broke the backs of our trees. It removed the coverings of our houses. It flattened the walls of some of our simple homes, dwelling homes around the island. And it downed the power lines for telephone, television, and electricity. It took with it our prized possessions. Some persons could not even find their wedding bands that they rest on the cabinet as they reach home after the wind passed. And at the same time, the accompanying rain ravaged everything in its way from the mountaintops all the way to the sea. Unfortunately, some of our houses, our homes, were seated in the path of the raving river and ravines. The communities of Roseau, Coliho, Colibistre, and other valley villages around Dominica, because we love to build where the water is easy to access, right? These suffered the brunt of the attack by the raving rivers and the swollen ravines. We lost our cars and our other personal belongings that were secured in our homes. We left everything, as on that night we were forced to run for our lives. Unfortunately and sadly, many of us were not able to escape even with our lives. Where are we now? We are in what we call the honeymoon phase. We are in a phase where things are happening and we are just seemingly going along with it. You know, they bring food, we eat, they play music, we dance. We just seemingly to be happy. I am aware that this happiness, like honeymoon, don't last forever. I'm really proud, however, of the general responses of Dominicans to this disaster. As we traveled throughout the shelters and throughout the communities around Dominica, the stories that we are hearing are that survivors are full of hope. People are praising God and thanking God for their mere survival, for their lives that were spared out of the jaws of a hurricane that came at night. People say they saw the wind. I don't know if you could see the wind in the night, but people say they saw the wind and they heard the wind and they heard voices in the wind. But the heroic reactions of Dominicans is unbelievable coming from this horrific experience. I see people around Dominica sharing their battered homes with multitude of neighbors. People sitting around lamps, laughing and joking. Neighbors are talking with each other. Imagine, neighbors are not watching television, they are talking with each other. This is truly a period. You know, when you go on honeymoon, you put your phone aside, you get rid of the television, and you pay attention to what is happening to you. Well, this is truly a honeymoon period for all of us. This is what community life should be. This is what community life should always be about. Hurricane Maria took with it the division, the loneliness, and the social isolation that we called our lives. We are still in the honeymoon phase, thank God. As we face this crisis together, The main question I'm hearing people asking is, are we going to make it together? In other words, the question is, will we come out of this together? Or should I try to make an escape on my own? In other words, do I have confidence in the system to protect me, give me the security I need? Or should I make a run for it? And where do I run to? Antigua, Guadeloupe, anywhere that a family member might promise me something that I do not know I can anymore depend on in Dominica. Can this marriage that we have with this hurricane, because we are married to the hurricane, you know, this storm, we are married to it. It came, we didn't, like in many cultures, you don't choose your bride. We did not choose it, but it is here. Can this marriage that we are forced into succeed? They ask this question every day, and even if there's no real answer, we keep asking this question. But this is a very good question to ask, brothers and sisters. Dominicans, we must keep asking these questions. We want to face the reality of our lives. Today, we are not in the same place as we were before the hurricane visited Dominica on September 18th. But the hurricane has placed us in the same place, in the same situation of survival. We are all trying to survive. Those with big business and small business. Those with big houses and small houses. Those who have power and those who don't have power. We are all trying to survive. Our leaders and the followers are all trying to survive. Today we are not in the same place, yes, but we can either swim together or we can drown together. Dominicans are traumatized because some of us have lost everything or almost everything that we call our own. The question we're asking and the doubts that and fears that seem to cloud our minds are normal for anyone faced with this kind of situation. I wish to encourage Dominicans, however, to overcome the feelings of doubts, fears, denial. Let's accept that the storm came. We truly lost the other life that we once knew as we knew it. We are now operating in what we call a new normal. The situation is new, but it is normal. That's what happens after a disaster. We didn't bring it on ourselves, so we have to deal with it. Our roofs are gone, the schools are closed, the comfortable things we call television and computer and telephone, to a certain extent, landline I'm talking about, we no longer feel safe, or we don't feel as safe and secure as we felt before. Our living arrangements are not what we want it to be. This seems so unfair. So many years of hard work, and this is what is happening to us. But this is the reality. This is what it is. So for many persons, this seems just too much to carry. As parents, we simply want to provide for our families as we used to before. As housemakers or wives or housewives, house husbands, we want to take care of our families the way we took care of them before. And as children, we just want to go back to school. We want things to go back to normal. Now, what kind of response are we providing as a Ministry of Health, as a government? Here's what the Ministry of Health is organizing to help Dominicans cope with this new normal and this new reality. My colleague, my friend here, Mr. Wendell, will talk about his experience in Dominica. I am one of the survivors of this disaster. Wendell is not a survivor of this disaster, so he may be a lot more subjective than I am, and he will talk to us about his experience in the shelters and around Island. But I would say here, the Ministry of Health has come up with a program where we, the people who are vulnerable, the people who are in the shelters, the elderly, we are trying to reach every one of them. Our team of counselors and trauma specialists, both locals and visitors alike, we are trying to meet people at the soonest time possible. We encourage shelter managers to allow our teams to reach everyone. For example, we realized when we went to some shelters that the elderly need more water per day than the stronger adults. Water saves lives. We encourage community leaders and district health teams to mobilize their communities. Our team and those experts who have joined us here, we are waiting to be directed to each community around Dominica. We want to hold meetings with your community. At those meetings, persons will be encouraged to express themselves and release the tension and the stress that they went through were inflicted on them by Hurricane Maria. The meetings will give the community leaders and the disaster managers out there a chance to give information on the ongoing relief efforts that is the biggest operation in Dominica right now. We also want to do some more training. We believe, and we continue to invite pastors and other clergy members to attend training sessions with us at the unit or anywhere around the island that we can come, that you want us to come, we'll come. We believe that pastors have a leading role to play in providing what we call practical hope and a better understanding of the human reactions. People look forward at this time to leadership, and pastors are in good position to lead the flock. So also, we invite all trained persons in the field of psychology and social work in Dominica. We must rise. Yes, we are traumatized, but it's time for us to rise up. This is what we went for training, so we can be ready to provide help to Dominicans who need it. You must become part of the psychosocial response team of the Ministry of Health. We invite you to join us as soon as possible. Now, in terms of the media communication, I'm pleased for this opportunity, but our team is present on the national radio station. We have been present from day one, but we have increased our presence over the past week, and we want to say thanks to the manager of DBS Radio, Mr. Cecil Joseph. He has been hosting every evening, or most evenings, from 7 to 9, a program where Mr. Wendell DeLeon and I, we go on the radio station and we allow Dominicans to call us. So we can debrief and we can provide counseling and grief response, help them to deal with the grief that they go through. In the morning also, members of my team, community mental health team, we are available on the radio again, where we provide information as much as possible to Dominicans. We are preparing, and we have gotten some help, promises, to present on a daily basis or hourly basis public service announcements that can give information and a sense of hope and directives to Dominicans as to how to seek help or how to respond to each other in times of need. Now, there's a specific group I want to pay attention to: disaster workers. We would like to be involved in debriefing the disaster workers. Here I speak of organizations like the National Emergency Operations Center, the police and fire, the utility workers putting up these poles every day and night, the relief workers around the island, and of course, health and social services workers. We would like, you all are at a point of burnout right now, and we would like to reach you. We want to reach you, and we would like you to make it possible. Your supervisors must take you into a place where you can save yourself as you try to save others. Normally, we believe that they need to take a break to replace and be replaced by others on the mission. We want to meet with you. Let me express thanks and appreciation before I close. Let me take this opportunity to offer thanks to the organizations that have supported the effort so far. The Health EOC, of which I'm a part, under the capable administrative leadership of Mr. Davis Later, DBS Radio and its manager, Mr. Cecil Joseph, for the radio programs that we are offering. Mercy Foundation, headed by Mr. Wendell DeLeon, the trauma specialist from Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, my team, the community mental health team, and my colleagues at all levels of work, the cleaners and everybody who has come to work, who have come to work to assist us. We are also accepting assistance from PAWI. PAWI is the Pentecostal Assembly of the West Indies. Today, 2 certified trauma specialists are arriving from Trinidad and Tobago to join those who are here. On Sunday, we expect 2 other trauma specialists from the University of the West Indies Barbados campus. A few other international organizations are already on island. We speak here of the International Red Cross, joining with the local Red Cross. The International Medical Corps, some of the members are here in the press briefing. UNICEF and the Ministry of Health, joining force with the Ministry of Health, to deliver a program we call Return to Happiness for Children. And there's a meeting this afternoon at Fort Young for which I shall attend because we shall be useful in that. And of course, the Israel Aid Organization, they are here and they're joining forces with us. So many other individuals and organizations have expressed a desire to provide psychosocial support to Dominicans at this time. We encourage them to organize themselves, be self-sufficient, and then we can accept your offer of help. Dominica at this time cannot provide for you as we are already stretched meeting the physical and emotional needs of our people. Thank you very much.
There will be different people listening. Some, as you say, are elderly, some do not quite understand the word trauma. Could you explain in detail when you say that person is traumatized, exactly what do you mean?
Anyone in Dominica, anyone who was in the path of this hurricane on September 18th and September 19th, the month of September 19th, would have become traumatized by the force of the wind or the rain and the rivers. What do I mean by become traumatized? The impact, the wind and the river, the damage it would have done to your psyche would have overridden or overwhelmed your natural resources or ability to deal with it. So if you push me, that's not a trauma in psychological term because I can deal with a push. But if you give me a knockout, which knocked me unconscious, my brain could not deal with it when it came. So I get bazoudi, as you say in Dominica, I get stupidi. And that is a trauma because I need somebody to help me to stand again or to pay attention to I won't die because you knocked me out. Some people died. They were severely traumatized. Others survived. But the recollection of the event on that night is printed in the memory forever. Every Dominican will say, from now until they're dead, I knew where I was when Hurricane Maria struck Dominica. I was in my bathroom hiding. I was in my cupboard hiding. I crawled on my belly so galvanized won't cut my head off when I was running from house to house. That is a trauma that we'll never forget. So people understand.